Everybody, I think I'm all set on my various technologies now. We're making do with what we got. So welcome again. I am Felix, pronouns are Z, they, he, and I am the Community Programs Manager at Work on Climate. We've put together a pretty exciting career success stories for y'all today, and I'm pleased as punch to be joined by a number of folks who are here to give you some more information, especially in this kind of landscape we find ourselves in. It is definitely a highly unusual one. We want to acknowledge that sort of from the get-go. It is a time in which a lot of shifting socioeconomic and political changes are making it harder to work on climate as a career. And that is a reality on top of a very competitive job market that we again wanted to acknowledge today. So the way things will work is our speakers here will present to you their stories, and we'll hold questions for breakout rooms at the end. In your emails, you should have gotten a participant worksheet, and if you don't have that, haven't made a copy of that yet, Kayla will share a link to it in the chat as well. But don't want to take up too much time. We'll go ahead and we'll get started. If Prakar Argawal would be ready to present. Prakar is a principal product manager at Optiwatt and will be talking to you all about resilience and adaptability in his climate story today. All right, take it away, Prakar.
Thanks. Let me just share my screen and we'll talk about it.
All right, I think you've got control of mine. I can see the slides.
Awesome.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Okay, great. Well, my name is Prakar and super glad to be here. Thank you everyone for joining and to my fellow panelists as well. I'm really grateful for all the work that everybody is doing in this space, and it makes me very excited to speak to more of you who are interested in finding their feet in this space. So having said that, if you could go to the next slide, or maybe I can just click. There you go. Do you want to talk about the Work on Climate community, Felix?
Oh yeah, let me do that real quick. So the Work on Climate community is over 30,000 community members strong, of which our panelists are a part of today. So links in the chat have been shared to check out some of the things on our website, including volunteer opportunities and the newsletter. But I won't go on too much about that because I really want y'all to hear from our speakers today. But otherwise, check out our website and join the Slack community if you haven't already.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So coming back to me, I have been in the climate space for almost 2 years now. And just to give you a glimpse of some of my past experiences, I have been a data analytics person, a product person, so purely a pure software individual. And what I realized as I was trying to navigate my way into the climate space was that for people like me coming from pure software world, there wasn't a lot of opportunity until we saw 2020 come along and COVID come along. At the same time, there were a lot of expectations around education, like having degrees in environmental sciences, sustainability and stuff, but the options for gaining that education were limited. And also, obviously, when you had some opportunities that opened up, it required significant experience, but the opportunity to gain those experiences was quite limited. And to wrap it up, the communities that we had in place, or the network we had in place, was also quite limited. If we had more opportunities, we had a stronger network, we would have seen more education material and more opportunities for gaining experience. All of those things started shifting to the positive side starting 2020. And that led me to work on climate and a bunch of other resources that helped me get into this space, which I'll talk about in a minute. In terms of my own personal desire of why I wanted to be in this space, I have 2 young kids, and I have been a sustainability champion for a very long time. So in terms of finding success in this journey of getting into the climate space, some of the strategies I used were to set a clear target. So for me, very much like Justin, for me, the clear target was to start something in the sustainability space, in the climate space. So I'm still on that journey, but for that, I put down a couple of milestones. Milestone number one for me was to take a product management role in startups that would help me learn about sustainability and entrepreneurship. Milestone two for me was find something similar, but in the sustainability space, go deeper in that. And so I'm happy to report that I've done both things now. And obviously now I'm working at Optivault. It's in the energy optimization, grid optimization space, vehicle charging optimization use cases. The other thing I would mention is as I was looking for opportunities in the sustainability space, obviously I had clear targets and milestones, but I had to be very flexible in sometimes taking adjacent roles. So before I took on a product role, I was in sales engineering, solutions engineering, data analytics consulting, bunch of things that provided me the foundation that led me to get on into sustainability space. Some of the things, for example, I'll tell you are I was very interested in the energy space initially, but then somebody recommended that I should have more flexibility and find a way to get into climate first, and then find my way into the climate space, into other sectors within the climate space. And also bunch of trade-offs, going from focusing on smaller companies, sometimes having a compensation package which was more on the equity side and less on the cash side, moving cities, all of those things were part of my thinking around approaching this space. And finally, since I was struggling to find something in this space for a long time, what I did was I changed my entire lifestyle, my family's lifestyle, to be sustainable. And I come from India, so we have a certain sense of sustainability built in due to frugality being part of the culture. But for me to actually learn about the space and to show that I've actually done the work, other words called show proof of work, when I changed my lifestyle, I learned a lot of things about waste management, renewable energy, and biodegradable items, like a bunch of things. So that helped me have meaningful conversations during the interviews for different positions in the sustainability space. In terms of how I approached and the resources I used, there are a bunch of resources that you would see today, but the ones that I personally really liked, number one was this first step is to work on climate. You want to work there, there's a link there which helps you understand the space first. Then there's the climate tech careers. There you can find all the resources, communities, job boards, and a bunch of other things that would help you get on your journey. The climate equation is a great resource. It's developed by the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator. It'll help you how an accelerator views the startups in this space. Then I would also suggest looking at the startup playbook. This is also from a VC, and they help you understand and navigate the startup ecosystem within the climate space. And then finally, for people who are interested in understanding more of the personal aspect of this journey, I recommend looking at Sylvia's My Climate Journey post on LinkedIn. That will be super helpful for you to understand how people approach this space. And you would see some parallels between how I did and how she has done and how other people have done. If you have more questions, obviously, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's my link. And speaking of the journey that I've taken so far, I think you'll love hearing from Haley next, because she also comes along with a lot of experience, a lot of breadth and depth. And I would now pass it over to her. Haley.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley Northrup. I am a senior data scientist at Uplight. Uplight is a software company based in Boulder, Colorado that focuses on energy efficiency, energy rates management and engagement, and demand management. And a lot of those products are sold to utility companies. Prakar kind of mentioned this as well, that sometimes we conflate energy and climate. I'm on the energy portion of climate, so I might use those a little interchangeably in my talk, but my role and my career path applies to climate in general as well. So a little bit about me before I dive into my career journey. I have a ton of interests and I love to learn. You can see that with my little quote, but I haven't had a super linear career path. I've had a very broad career path, and I think that has helped me become very marketable across different sectors. So I'm going to kind of speak to that in my talk today. So before going to Uplight, which is an energy software kind of climate sector company, I wanted to talk about other sectors I've worked in over time. In my undergraduate university, I had the opportunity to do 2 internships in defense, one at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. That was way back in 2014, so it's been a while. And I did a little bit of work at the University of Delaware as well, related to EVs. After that, I did some tutoring. My big girl job was at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, which is a defense contractor. And then I bopped on over to University of Michigan. I saw someone in the chat who went there, go blue. And I started a PhD there, and that focused on healthcare research. Then I did an internship at Johnson & Johnson. And then I did some community college teaching. And I've also done some volunteering with computer science high school students. So I am all over the map, as you can see. And when you think of my career prior to Uplight in these sort of boxes of like fields or sectors, it feels very segmented, it feels very static, and it doesn't really communicate the skills I've learned along the way and how I can kind of pivot these experiences in other sectors to the climate sector. Like, how do I market myself beyond, an internship that was 7 years old at the time I was applying to Uplight? That's not super recent experience. So I want to kind of shift the perspective into how do we think about these career experiences in terms of the skills you've gained along the way. And I've kind of remapped this to be each box is a skill and each column is an experience. So as you can see, over time, you build these experiences through these different skills through these different roles. And I think that's really a valuable way to think about how to market yourself. And sometimes you may have some skill sets that you'd like to make more robust that are kind of lacking, but will help you get that next role. So after all these experiences combined, I got my role at Uplight, and at Uplight, which is super cool, I get to use a lot of these skill sets that I've honed over time as well. So I'm going to touch on some barriers and we'll call them my strategies, but just some tips. Prakar touched on some of these related to like an expectation of prior industry experience or of like a degree in environmental science or things like that. And sometimes even if you don't have that and you want to get in the climate sector, you don't know where to look for roles, or you lack that industry connection, that person to kind of like hook you into a company that already exists or point you in the right direction. And also maybe you don't know a lot of people who've made this transition from the sector you're in into climate or another sector into climate. So hopefully our stories are helpful in filling that gap for you all. But what I would say is to emphasize your transferable skills. So like I showed that chart, like what are my skills? What can I call out on my resume, in my cover letter, and when I'm talking to an interviewer, when I have that opportunity to be in front of them. And then sometimes in an interview, especially at these climate-oriented companies, you might be asked like, how are you connected to the mission, or why did you want this role? And that's like a super great opportunity to say, I have a personal interest in climate. It may not jump out on your resume, but you might be able to say, I'm part of this group, or I've installed solar panels on my house, or I compost. Things like that really show that like, even though it isn't on your resume, you do have that personal connection to climate in general. And if you feel like you want to hone these skills or you want to make more connections, it's great to take advantage of those accessible opportunities inside and outside of work. You can network in your own company, do informational interviews, join a committee, things like that. And that way you can build your network and grow your skills. And also outside of work, you can join communities, attend talks like this, connect with people on LinkedIn. And also, as I said, like kind of just take a personal interest in climate in your life, and that will really help you towards making that transition into the climate sector. Anna is up next, and she will also actually highlight a bunch of very actionable strategies on how to get into climate. Anna Zelser is a sustainability coordinator for Angelini Pharma and a climate advocate across multiple communities. And she's gonna tell us what's what.
Thanks for the introduction, Hayley. And I really love how you framework your resume. It's so great. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I am the sustainability coordinator for Angelini Pharma, which is a 3,000 employees Italian pharmaceutical company. And to give you an idea of where I grew up, I was born on a small farm in Western France, surrounded by the land, with organic food harvested by my grandfather. So here's a picture of me with him when we built a greenhouse in high school. And my quote is, "I believe anything is possible when we dream, dare, work, and never give up." Next slide, please. Thanks. So I could have made a career as a farmer, but when it came time for college, my parents wanted me to study business, and I did. So for 3 years, I did an internship every summer, first in finance, then marketing, and finally human resources. It was hard, but companies really value candidates who take internships or certificates. And also, it helped me to discover what I liked or not. So after my 3 internships, I studied abroad in Spain for a little while. And when I returned to France, I felt that something was missing. I needed meaning in my work. So I decided to major in sustainability. And at that point, my only experiences were in business, and I didn't come from a science background. But all of this to say, it doesn't matter where you start, you can create your own path. All right, now I'm going to be completely honest with you. Finding my first job in the climate sector was not easy. But here's the thing. I found every job I've ever had thanks to networking and extracurricular activities. With that being said, let me take you through my climate journey, the green bubbles. So for me, it all started during my master's degree in sustainability, where I volunteered for various nonprofits. I worked with amazing people, and this led me to a part-time job during my studies, working on the carbon footprint of some TV shows. Really fun. And thanks to my network, when I graduated from college, I pivoted from the media industry to working full-time as sustainability manager in tech. And every time, I was the sole sustainability person and maintaining direct communication with the CEO. So all great. And in 2022, I moved to Atlanta in the US. And actually, I found my job within a week, once again through networking. Long story short, I met my current boss at an event. He was the general manager of the company. And when I met him, I was myself, natural, authentic, and smiling. What did we talk about? I don't really remember, but that was the first step of me getting hired as sustainability coordinator. All right, so what's my role at Angelini Pharma? Today, my goal is to strategize with the leadership team on how to reduce the carbon footprints of the entire value chain, while reporting, training, and communicating with all the employees from different countries, even those who may not be fully convinced about climate change. And to have a sense of how my team works, there are 2 of us working locally in the US and 6 in the group level in Italy. And in addition, we also have a green team, essentially voluntary group of leaders from different departments who focus on concrete actions on the field. So actually, if you want to start your career in climate, one idea could be to join or create a green team in your organization. You can start this initiative with a small group of colleagues who care about the environment, like you. and start implementing projects like reducing waste in the workplace, finding plastic alternatives, or organizing events. For me, being part of the green team is a powerful way to drive change from within the company. Now, and green, yes, Earth Month is coming, so it's really time to start this initiative. And now the other aspect I wanted to emphasize today and talk to you about is building communities. I believe that this skill can be a key to anyone's success in the climate journey. So building communities is part of my daily job. As mentioned, I am part of the green team at Angelini Pharma. And for my extracurricular activities, I'm also part of several nonprofits, for example, the Climate First workshop, and I saw somebody in the chat is liking it. And some networks, such as Global Shapers from the World Economic Forum, Women and Climate, like Haley mentioned, etc. So now why I am part of all these communities? So it helps reduce my eco-anxiety, and it gives me the opportunity to create projects locally and across borders and fight for something bigger than us. So now my advice to build your network and a community. So first, I already said, but join the green team at your company. And if it doesn't exist already, take the lead and build it. Attend events, both online and in person. If you're shy or don't feel comfortable, bring a friend. Create your LinkedIn QR code or a business card made from recycled paper. The most important thing is to also get their business cards because you want to contact them afterwards. Then keep a list of contacts, whether it's on LinkedIn or in your phone's notes. Keep track of the people you meet. Reach out to them every once in a while and maybe suggest a 15 minutes online meeting or to grab a coffee. Then find a mentor. You can learn so much from someone with more experience, and this knowledge can't be found anywhere else. I find mine at an event, and she's almost retired, and she's just eager to teach me new things. If, like me, English is not your first language, do not hesitate to find other international people to help you, your local chamber of commerce, consulate, etc. Then look for internship and certificates. Volunteer for nonprofits and join sustainability professional groups. This is a fantastic way to be in action and gain experience with like-minded people. And finally, support each other. Manage your time and energy. We can't do everything, so focus on what matters the most to you, and to recharge, spend time outdoors in nature. And now it's spring, so it's the best time. Next time, yeah, oops, sorry. All right, now in terms of resources, a French teacher and engineer just launched this amazing comic called World War Without Ends. It's super easy to read and super interesting. I really recommend it. If you want to understand what is going on in the world, I recommend you take the Climate First workshop online or in person. If you would like to make an impact by speaking, check out the Talk for Impact community. And if you need some advice, I would suggest to schedule a call with the Work on Climate experts. So I hope you find this helpful. To wrap it up, I truly believe in supporting one another. People are always willing to help. You just need to ask. I came to the US without a job, and while I was building communities and networking, I found my dream job. So you can do this too. Start small and believe in the power of connection and cooperation. On my side, I would be happy to help anyone grow in their career or just listen to their stories. The more we support each other, the stronger our community becomes. So thank you. And next up is Justin Beroz, founder and CEO of ReynKo Inc. Justin will share a little bit about how he capitalized on a hidden emerging opportunity and created his own job when he founded his company.
Thanks, Anna. Hey guys, I'm Justin. Good to be here. So I am the founder and CEO of ReynKo. It's a small startup based in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And so I'll start with a little background about myself. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade and training. I have bachelor's through Ph.D. in Mech-E, primarily focused in precision mechanical design. So I'm one of the guys who's spending countless hours in the machine shop designing and building stuff. And story goes, halfway through the PhD, basically I got bored and I felt like I didn't have a fundamental enough understanding of things. Stumbled across a couple of theoretical physics books and everything clicked. I realized this is the thing I'm missing in my life. So picked up a second PhD in tandem in theoretical physics, and wrapped up the Mech-E one a couple years ago and just about to finish the physics one. So how this company started is a couple years ago, I was meeting with my math advisor and he turned me on to the turbulence problem in fluid mechanics. So first, what is the turbulence problem? Anytime you have a fast-moving fluid, like say air or water, it tends to destabilize and make these complicated swirling patterns in the flow. And that's what we refer to as turbulence. So you see a couple pictures here. Turbulence is very much sort of a fact of life. You pour cream in your coffee in the morning and you see the mixing. That's an example of turbulence. Steam coming off and doing the swirling pattern, same thing. Now, from a first principles point of view, this is considered the longest running unsolved problem in classical physics. And so basically what the state of play for the last 200 years has been is that we know what the governing differential equation is that describes fluid flows, i.e. the Navier-Stokes equation. But what we don't have is a complete and consistent mathematical framework in which to couch it, such that you can simply set initial and boundary conditions and then time evolve the flow. So I got interested in this, started plugging away at it, and turns out after a couple of years pulling my head out of the mathematical weeds, I had actually solved this. So I had penned an exact closed-form mathematical framework for turbulent flows. So I've been going through on the academic side, it's been super exciting, basically checking off the boxes on these long-standing problems in the field, and it's been 100% success compared to the model experiment. So that was really the confirmation that this is in fact the right physical theory. And that was really the impetus for starting ReynKo. So essentially what we're doing at ReynKo is we're taking this mathematical framework as our foundation and building out to tackle all the world's biggest problems that are touched by turbulent fluids. So this includes anything that's aerodynamics, hydrodynamics, weather and climate, chemical processing, you name it. So specifically for this audience, turbulence is arguably the biggest limiting factor in our ability to have accurate weather and climate simulations. And the reason is because turbulence is the thing that's responsible for all the mixing in the atmosphere and the ocean. So you have like hot and cold air mixed together. These are the driving forces for all of our weather patterns. And so in a very real sense, when we look at what our simulations are, they're essentially fluid dynamic simulations with some additional geophysics thrown in on top. But really the core equations of motion are in fact the turbulence equations. So that's what brings me to the climate space. So essentially what we're doing at ReynKo is we're building out, there's three things we're doing. So first thing is we're building better software. We're currently doing a whole bunch of math to produce the first genuine, accurate first principles computational fluid dynamics program. After that, we're going to branch out in a couple directions. We're going to get into modeling and eventually hardware. So think control systems, so hardware, software, electronics control algorithms to control and mitigate turbulence in a number of canonical flows. So that's just a brief about what we're doing at the company. As far as, let's see, can I change the slides? Oh, looks like I don't have control. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so what I want to do is through my experience, I want to share a couple things that I've learned, which I feel are major impediments to reaching a climate solution as fast as possible. So there's two messages that I want to give here. So the first one is that first and foremost, the Earth is a physical system. And what I've noticed is that quite often the decision makers do not have the experts in the room. Now, first and foremost, you really need to have the physicists there, and they are the ones who are setting the conceptual framework for how the Earth works and how we evaluate what kind of climate mitigation solutions are more effective than others. And of course, you know, this very much cascades into policy and other things. So like, I'll just give you a couple of examples. I was talking to someone who is working on a spacecraft to measure properties of the ocean surface. So the ocean, as a simplified model, you can think of it as from the surface contacting the atmosphere, there's a turbulent mixing layer that's about 100 meters thick, and then below that, the ocean is essentially still and cold. So you can sort of treat it as an infinite sink. Now, it turns out that the transport properties across that interface, they remain unknown. And so we're building satellites to measure these things. Now, it turns out that the ocean is really the sink for something like 90% of carbon and heat, right? And this seems like a pretty basic thing. So you can imagine, this is part of the reason we struggle with having accurate climate simulations, is that there's still a lot of basic science that we need to figure out. Second message I want to give, and this again comes from my personal experience, is be very careful about moral posturing. I've noticed that this can be a thing with a subset of people in the climate space. The reality is that fossil fuels still provide something like 90% of our energy needs, and they are really the ones that are keeping the lights on. And so it's really renewable energies that are intermittent. When the wind isn't blowing, the sun isn't shining, who has to step in to keep the lights on? Is oil and gas. And if they don't do that, people die, right? So we should always keep that in mind, as we're pushing a climate message. So my point of view is that it's really a position of unearned privilege in a way to claim the moral high ground if you yourself are not shouldering the responsibility for keeping the lights on. And so to me, I like to think about things practically. How do we get to a solution as fast as possible? And that includes oil and gas. I think the stupidest thing we can do is to treat them as an adversary and push them into a corner, because that only prolongs the fight, essentially. So a message, something that I'm a big fan of is looking for win-win solutions. And so I'll just close by giving you one example of what I mean. If you want to find the best geologists in the world, the best hydrologists in the world, you go to an oil and gas company, right? And these are very transferable skills. The way I see it is, an Exxon or a BP, they basically have all the skills to be a geothermal company, right? Who's better at digging deep holes and building big infrastructure projects? So, this is an example where, we can help gracefully sunset old technologies, bring in the new, and, nobody has to lose their job. So I'll stop there, and thank you very much.